Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday night. We're so excited to have you join us tonight. So go ahead and come on in. Please make sure you like and share. You definitely want to make sure that a survivor is joining us tonight. If you cannot watch right now, make sure you catch the replay. I have 4 amazing survivors that are joining me tonight, and I'm super excited for you to hear some of their story. Super excited for you to grab their book. If you know me and you follow Stand Up Survivor for any length of time, you already know that if I'm talking about a book, it is amazing. So please, when you jump in, tell us where you're tuning in from so we know who's joining us tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce these amazing authors. Victoria, say hey, Victoria.
Hello.
Victoria, what state are you in?
California.
She's in Cali. All right, Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea.
Hi.
Hey, what state are you in, Chelsea?
I'm in Arizona.
Arizona. Hey, Kathy. What state are you in, Kathy?
Hey, I'm in Minnesota.
Hey, Tasha. What state are you in?
Hi, I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. From all over. I'm so excited. So these brave ladies, hey, from Virginia, hey, Kelly, these brave ladies decided that they were going to put pen to paper and share their stories. And I want to let you know now, like we put in the beginning of the book, there is a trigger warning, right? But we're not afraid to talk about things that have a trigger warning because these are the lives that these survivors have lived. And when I tell you the bravery and the strength that it took for them to share their stories, our team literally was like, I got to take a pause because the stories were so powerful. The stories were also very traumatic and they were very eye-opening. So I want you to know that as you listen to their stories, some of their stories tonight, we're not giving you all the tea because you got to grab the book. But I do want you to hear some of it because we know that this conversation tonight is going to save someone's life. So, yeah. Hey, Stacey, I know they're just so brave. I'm so proud of them for doing this. So thanks for popping in. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Watching from Alabama. I'm Lisa Alexander, the Executive Director of Stand Up Survivor. And you just met 4 amazing authors who are going to share some of their story tonight. They've recently just completed a book called My Survivor Story. Y'all, first of all, let's just talk about the size of this book, right? When I tell you they left nothing on the table, they put everything on the table is what I should say. They want you to know their stories and their journey, right? So let's talk about who wants to go first. Let's talk about what were you thinking when you decided to share your story? Go ahead, Tasha. Tell us.
Okay. Well, for me, I've been sharing my story publicly for the past year now. And I remember when I was in that relationship, it felt very lonely. And I was looking towards like videos online or women to connect with who kind of understood and knew what that felt like, or just to feel validated and to know that somebody else out there knows what you're experiencing. And I kind of forgot the question, but but yeah, I just felt in my heart and soul that this was the time, and I just genuinely wanted to share my story with other survivors out there, other people, that you're not alone and that you can get through it. And it's so brave and courageous to speak your truth and to share your story. And I feel like the more that we share our truth in our story, the more that other people feel comfortable in doing so.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the question was like, why did you decide to share your story? But I love that because I think that a lot of survivors are looking for that connection. Someone else to say, me too. This happened to me too. And I'm going to come back to you because you were young, young girl when you met your abuser. And that's why I said specifically, if you know someone, you have a teenage daughter, a teenage son, this conversation has got to be heard by them. So Chelsea, when you decided to share your story, why did you decide that it was time to put it on paper?
Well, to be honest, this is the first time that I'm sharing my story. So I just felt that it was time for me to heal, for me to talk about it, for others to read it and find hope and connect. And that's really where I'm coming from.
I love that. The bravery of telling it for the first time, putting it on paper. And, Chelsea, your chapter really got me. All right. It really did. It really did. And I'm telling you, that's one of the chapters with the significant warning on it. Because, and this is for teenage parents. This is for teenagers that need to understand the signs when it comes to dealing with teenage dating violence and how often it happens. And it's really important. Hey, Sharice from the Sunshine State. Hey, Oklahoma. Hey, Mavis. I'm a mom, 3 kids in the shelter the first night tonight. Mariah, we are sending you lots of love and lots of strength. And we're here to tell you that you can survive it, that you can do it. Right. So, Kathy, when you were thinking about telling your story, and she's like so brave. I remember reading her story like, whoa, you did what? You joined what? Okay. So when you thought about putting your story on paper, why did you decide to do that?
I think because a lot of the abuse that I experienced was gaslighting. And so something that started to really help me, like, I didn't believe in myself. So writing stuff down, writing what I felt when it was like happening was part of how I was able to realize how bad it was. So that was sort of always part of my healing, was to like write down what happened, and experiencing so many times people telling me that like what I was seeing or feeling like wasn't accurate, wasn't real. It just, the act of doing that, it is part of how I kind of like memorialize it and like remind myself of like, yeah, that really happened, and I really did survive that, and I really like, I made it.
You know what? It's really powerful. Oh, can somebody, yeah, you guys mute real quick. Okay, thank you. I was going to say, so Kathy, that's really powerful, because gaslighting is huge. And we even gaslight ourselves. Did this really happen? Maybe it didn't really happen. Did this? And because I remember when I was reading your chapter, I was like, oh my goodness, did he really do these things? And if you don't write it down, sometimes you will second guess yourself to think, what is wrong with me? And I think what you said was really powerful. And I just want to encourage anyone who's watching, don't second guess yourself. Don't be afraid to write these things down. They did happen to you. You are not crazy. This did happen to you. And whether you write it down in a book, whether you write it down in a journal, whether you write it down and rip it up, write it down, because it happened to you. And you need to let yourself know that it really did happen. All right, Victoria, talk to us. Why did you decide to share your story?
Honestly, the moment abuse even occurred, I was very honest and open with everybody who talked to me. And the same thing was going on with every woman I ever told my story with. And the underlying factor was that nobody was like willing and open enough to share their story. And so it really brought like the fire in me to share and tell other people, like, there's nothing to be embarrassed about it. You didn't pick it, it chose you. And spread awareness, really.
I really love that, Victoria. And all of the ladies really shook their head, and they said, yeah, because other people are going through it, but nobody's talking about it. And I remember when I started talking, I was like furious. I'm like, oh, y'all dealing with it too, but no one's saying anything. We've got to break the silence. And so I really just want to celebrate you ladies for having the courage to break your silence tonight. So there's a lot of people that are watching, and I want them to know, I want them to hear a little bit about your story. And Victoria, I'm going to just pick on you right now, right? Because
okay,
you talk about a part in the story, and I remember talking to other survivors where you were hit by a belt by your abuser, right?
Yeah.
And when you think of something like that, to that significance, and I remember reading in your story how you literally sat there completely shocked. Tell us a little bit about your thought process, or how you feel when you were writing that down, or thinking, this happened to me, or I'm experiencing this in this moment.
I mean, honestly, I was in shock. I really didn't know what was going on. And really, ultimately, at that point, all I thought about was just sitting and staring and watching the TV while it was happening. Because I am a Scorpio, I do have a lot of energy, and I'm, I like to fight a little bit. So I thought, if I fight, it's only going to make it worse. So I might as well just sit there and take it on. I don't know if that was the best approach, because more happened after that. But really, ultimately, the only thing I could think of is, if I just sit here, maybe he'll stop.
Wow, that's powerful. And that's really hard. It's a really hard thing to think about that you went through, and because it came out of such a shock. So you guys, every author that you're seeing here, and I'm going to put the link for the book. Y'all go to Amazon and grab the copy. It's only $20, and y'all getting all y'all money worth in this $20, because this book, and you need to buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy for someone else, because it's going to help change someone's life. Again, remember, there's a trigger warning in the book. These ladies did not hold back on the truth of their story. You know, Kathy, you talk about in your story how you joined AmeriCorps and you said, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to live this life, you know, and that's where you met your abuser.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, I had just graduated college and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but like I wanted an adventure. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Alaska and work on a trail crew and live in the woods with bears. Um, and it was like a moment of kind of wanting to like find myself and like explore who I was and, you know, kind of my options for life. And yeah, so then that's when I met my abuser. And, you know, at first it seemed like he was just totally on board with all of those things that I wanted as well. Um, and like a lot of our, you know, the time we were dating and first getting to know each other, we were just doing all these like super cool things like out in the wilderness in Alaska, like seeing whales swimming in the water and like bald eagles and bears and climbing mountains. So it was like wild and fun, and so cool. And it just, yeah, I mean, like then later I realized that, you know, part of it was he was doing that on purpose to make me believe that he also wanted the same things as I did.
And you know, everyone kind of shook their head like, yeah, they literally, they mirror you. They literally mirror you. Oh, you like that? I like that too. You like that? I like that too. Jackie, we're going to put the link for the Amazon book. Let me see if I can paste it in there now. That is not it. So you guys can grab it as well. And we're going to also share it, you know, on our social media channels as well. And so it's really important. So I know even in your book, Kathy, you say, listen, he was fine. You know, Kathy's like, listen, this is not a bad looking guy. This guy, and she's like, no, he was fine. Like, it's acknowledging the fact that this is a good looking guy. This is an attractive guy. I was attracted to this person. I thought, I look good. He looks good. We make a good looking couple. But I'm going to definitely come back and touch on that because there's so many different parts of your story that I think that are really important. So let's go, Tasha. When you met your abuser, tell us, when did you meet your abuser?
Yeah, so I, you know, kind of grew up around my abuser, but I really got close to him when I was 16. And, you know, I was in high school and my abuser was friends with my friends. You know, he got good grades, was a great person, did all these sports. And so when I first got close to him, you know, he was amazing to me. Like, I thought this person was my soulmate, and, you know, all my friends knew him. And so that was just, you know, a really, I guess, easy way because you know, manipulation happens slowly over time, and it just got progressively really bad. And when it was bad, it was really bad. But, you know, I was young and you know, this person would give me gifts and we would go on all these dates and we'd sit and talk for hours. So, you know, to back off what Kathy said is like he loved everything I loved. And, you know, I thought this was my first love when I was very young. So I'm so glad that we're talking about that because I feel like so many young women, you know, whether you're in high school or you're in college, experience that. And, you know, we don't necessarily recognize it or see it coming. So
that's really good. And I think one thing you talk about is that you grew up really confident. Like, you didn't really grow up with any self, and people have this misconception, well, they must have had low self-esteem or they must not have loved. You grew up in a balanced house and you were confident in yourself and you were really focused. And I remember reading a part of your chapter, like, I'm not focused on guys right now. Like, this is not it. I'm focused. But then you meet this person in your high school and you're like, we have this compatibility. Everything's all my friends like, and again, turn up the volume. If you have teenagers, please, when I tell you, turn up the volume, share this with teenagers because guidance counselors, y'all need this information. Don't even get me started on guidance counselors, Chelsea. Don't get me started, okay? Because wait till I tell you about this guidance counselor. But anyway, so it's really important because you guys had so much, your friends liked him, really friendly, really into sports, all the green flags, everything was looking great. When did that change, Tasha?
Oh, so no, for me, like for the first few months, it was amazing. Like I thought, you know, this person was my soulmate. And, you know, and then I went off to college and we did long distance. So I'd only see him for 2 to 3 days. But, you know, right around that time is when I started seeing, you know, he wouldn't text me as frequently or I started seeing signs like he would lie to me about little things, or he would make comments here and there. But I kept going back to the fact of, well, this person is my soulmate. Like, he was so nice in the beginning. And then he slowly did that over time. And then, it didn't get really serious until I moved close to him. And that was, I was a sophomore in college. And then I really saw, the full picture of it and experienced what that flip looked like, because I feel like sometimes you don't necessarily see the full side of them until you're really close with them. Or he was practically almost, living with me because he'd come over all the time and lived on the same street as me. And so, yeah.
So it's interesting, Tasha. I want to touch on something to the parents that are listening or the college students that are listening. You made a conscious choice because you thought, listen, like, my relationship is going to be better if I move. You made a conscious choice to make that decision, to thinking it's going to be great, right? And so what would you say to a parent whose child may make a decision? And you're not the only one. And Cara, she's not on tonight, but she's also an author in a book and made a similar decision as you. So if a parent is watching or a college student is watching, what would you say that they could kind of look out for?
Oh, I would say first, like, check in with them and, like, see, why they're moving, or, like, making sure, that it's for them first. But, for me, like, there was even moments where I became distant with my family, or I would become defensive around the topic of him, or I would even defend him. Um, I would act super weird around them. And I know my mom saw that. She noticed, like, I would defend him, or I was distant, or I'd make excuses for him. But yeah, those are some of the things that I was doing.
That's really helpful. And while it may seem, they're just teenagers, or they're hormonal, they're in college, they're up and down, these are key things that happen. We're kind of all shaking our head. Yeah, I did that too. Yeah, I did that too. So Victoria, you married your abuser, right? And I remember just reading your story. Like, I'm telling y'all, I'm turning the pages like, he did what? Right. So at the point when did you realize your marriage was not going to be what you thought, what you signed up for?
Ooh, the day of my wedding. I mean, I'll say it now, but the day of my wedding, he told me that he was not there for me. He was there to see his family and friends. So walk down the aisle and marry me. But after that, don't talk to me or spend any time in the wedding with me. And that was really hard because that was right before I was going to write my wedding vows. And so it was just hard to hear that somebody who I had been with for so long didn't want to share the special moment with me during our wedding.
And you talk about how difficult that was in the book, and what proceeded after that. And I know you mentioned also in the book, and I know, like, right before I married my ex-husband, I said to my brother the day before, I said, I don't think I'm supposed to marry him. And I remember reading your story, and you kind of had a moment where you're like, should I do this? Because you spent a year planning your wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, like, walking up and holding hands with my dad, which was awkward in itself because him and I don't really get along. And then turning the corner and seeing 130 plus people look at me. And all I could think about was, how do I turn around and run? But then the other side of me was, 130 people are here to see us get married. How can I turn away from that? So they all spent an hour. Some people flew there just to see us get married. So the pressure was on, but I knew instantly that this was not the person I should marry. That's
powerful. So I'm going to ask you a question, Victoria. We have a relationship. I'm going to ask you, if there's someone watching and they're preparing to walk down the aisle, or they're even preparing to say yes to someone who's going to propose, and they know that this relationship is not maybe something that they need to move forward with, what would you say to that person?
Who listen to your gut, because I was so terrified of what people were going to think if I didn't marry him that day. And after talking to everybody after I had left him, they all asked me, why did you even marry him when you knew you shouldn't have? And I mean, every reason that I gave them was because I was afraid of what other people would say if I didn't walk down the aisle that day. And everybody's reaction was, who cares what I think? I mean, we're here because we care about you and your well-being. So honestly, the biggest thing is listen to your gut. That's like one thing I regret that day was I didn't listen to my gut. And if I did, I would have not endured the amount of abuse I did after that day. So listen and don't really worry about what other people think because at the end of the day, it's your life and you need to make the choices on your own life. So
That's really great advice. And I would dare to say you literally just saved someone from walking down the aisle to
good, I
make
hope so.
I definitely, I absolutely agree that you definitely did because someone needed to hear that. That would have been really helpful to me all those years ago. And I really hope that it's helpful for someone else. You and Victoria, you and Kathy actually have a connection, but I'm going to come back to this a second because I want to talk to Chelsea for a second. Chelsea, you also met your abuse as a teenager, right? And
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what that looked like for you and what were some signs maybe that you saw? Because I mean, was it similar to Tasha? Was it different?
So I was 15 and it was my first year in high school. I was a freshman. Had no interest in dating at all, and I felt pressured by a friend into dating, and so it didn't really feel right for me in the first place, just because I wasn't interested. But there was in high school, especially freshman year, if you don't have a lot of friends, there's a lot of pressure to date. And so that's kind of how we started, was just through the peer pressure.
That's really good. I want you to continue, but I want to just say that real quick. Parents of freshmen that are watching, it's a really big thing, and this was a few years ago. So we're talking about the pressure is way up, especially with social media to date. And, and clearly they both were like, no, I'm not interested. But the pressure from the outside really influenced them. So when you met Chelsea, when you met your abuser, what did you think? Where were you thinking?
Well, we got along. We were introduced through friends, and we got along. I didn't have very many friends. I was at a new school. We did have a lot in common. We both had theater class not at the same time, but we both had theater class, and so we had a lot of things to talk about. And so we just started hanging out more and more together until he kind of became my only friend, and um, yeah, that's how it kind of progressed. Was just I was very new and I didn't really know anybody.
So I think you made a really good point. Number one, you were new and he became your only friend, right?
Mhm.
So that's a huge red flag. And you kind of really break it down how that became a thing, how slowly but surely. I'm putting the link for the book in the chat, you guys, so you can go ahead and grab it. It's available. It's only $20. Make sure you grab it. You won't want to put it down, or maybe you will, but you'll pick it back up. I will say, Chelsea, when you talk about how you guys met, I'm telling you, when you talk in your chapter, there were some really key things that maybe people overlooked. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. They overlooked the heck out of your story. Like they overlooked so many things. And if I could just get mad for a quick second, and I need help with that. But the guidance counselors dropped the ball so many times when it comes to your story that it makes.
Yes, they did.
Please tell us what that looked like for you.
When I finally started talking to guidance counselors through the school, one of the first things she told me was boys are boys. And
But what? I'm sorry. I apologize. Furious. Boys are boys. And I remember in your show, she goes into more detail in the book. But when she told the guidance counselor what he was doing to her, she said, boys are boys. Whew. Go ahead. Sorry. Let me mute myself. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Because I started out I didn't want to jump in with this guidance counselor that I didn't really know. And I wanted to just kind of be like, okay, well, he was making me do uncomfortable things. And to see her response. And, well, he's really pressuring me this way. He's doing this, he's doing that. And she's like, well, boys have a lot of hormones. They don't understand. And pretty much the whole thing was that boys will be boys.
unacceptable, the wrong message all the way. And you made a really good point in your chapter. You said, I shut down. That was it. I wasn't going to trust her anymore. She missed a key opportunity to be there for you. A key opportunity.
I stopped talking to her completely.
Stop completely. Huge missed opportunity. So guidance counselors, grab it for the guidance counselor at your school so they know what to look for. This is really important, you guys. So there was another time in your story where there were some significant things in your journey that people may have overlooked. You know, what are some of those things that you would say were overlooked that should have been seen?
I would say it's a very common factor in my story that just I was reaching out for help and nobody saw. I turned in a very triggering poem to one of my English teachers, and she graded it, and that was the end of the story. I tried to reach out to I don't know. There's just so many things, and it was just like it felt like that it was like wall after wall after wall, and to the point where I stopped trying, and I believed that I was the problem and I was dramatic, and that's what spiraled like a really deep depression, is because I felt like I was the issue.
And that's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's important. And whether you're a teenager, whether you're an adult, if someone comes to you and with something that they're experiencing, it's so important for the first things that you say is that I believe you and I'm sorry that this happened to you. And how can I help you? Because you even talk about how it didn't have to be your story. It could have turned out so differently if someone would have just believed what you had to say. And I think one of the things that they said was like, you're just being dramatic. And that's really painful, you know? That's a really painful part. So thank you for sharing that. Kathy and Victoria, one thing that you guys have really similar in your story is that your abuser just like trashed the house. Like, why was that like a thing? Why? And it's like they trashed their own stuff. I mean, why do you think that happened? Why do you think that's one of the behaviors that abusers do?
Kathy, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think probably part of the reason that my abuser did that was just because he wanted to keep me unsettled, like to never be able to be comfortable in my own space, to always kind of wonder if something was going to get messed up or something was going to happen. Some of it was when I was like in graduate school or working. Those were things, right, that he wanted me to do because that was like going to be my career. I was making money, that kind of thing. But he also didn't really like that I was leaving. And I think part of it was to make sure that I wouldn't be hanging out with people. Like I would go do class, come home, go to work, come home. Because if I stayed away, like too long, whatever that meant to him, he would trash stuff, or like, yeah, kind of just if I was gone for a while, even like going to visit family for stuff where he didn't verbally tell me that I couldn't go or shouldn't go, and I think he kind of wanted me to go because if I said I couldn't come, then people would be like, why aren't you able to come on family vacations with us or stuff like that. But he was still, just kind of trying to remind me that like he had the control and he could always make me uncomfortable. Nothing that I like had was safe, pretty much. So I think that was a lot of it for me. So Victoria, you want to weigh in?
I think my trashed condo was a little different. I had actually moved most of my belongings out the night prior, and there were just a couple of things, like one room full of my belongings that I had not been able to get. And I think he knew that I would probably come back to retrieve it all. So he just wanted to destroy everything that he could. Um, Little did he know that the stuff that I had left meant nothing to me. They were just items. I had already taken most of my sentimental things out of there. So really it made him look more like a fool than anything, because most of it was his stuff. And food was a lot of it. So I think it was just a way to let me know that he was upset. But shame on him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Victoria and Kathy. If you could just mute yourself again real quick. Chelsea, Tasha, I'm coming back to you, but Chelsea, if you could read the question, the comment real quick, and then I'll let you answer it if you feel comfortable, okay? Because it's addressed to you.
Yeah, from Kim.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and read it, and I'm going to ask Tasha a question. I'll come back to you, okay?
Okay.
So, Tasha, let's talk about you literally relocated to go to school closer to him. And you noticed something among his friends, and you know, they didn't really acknowledge your presence and who you were in his life and things like that. But then slowly he started to move into your home. That kind of thing started to happen, you know? So what are some of those signs that you saw start to happen, but you still didn't really put your finger on it?
Yeah, so before I moved, I had been going to a different college, so we were in different states, and I moved there, and he was in a fraternity. And, you know, it was very bizarre because he told me about his life was amazing and he had all these friends. And so he had like painted this beautiful picture of this life that we were going to live together and, you know, had future promise and all these things. And, you know, when I got there, I noticed quickly that things were a lot different than what he had been feeding to me and saying to me over time. And, you know, the people in his fraternity knew the stuff that he'd been doing, you know, whether he'd been cheating or, you know, they plant little seeds. So he would tell his friend one simple little thing, but then would tell them over time. And then, you know, they like victim blame and make you look like you're the crazy one or the reactive one. And so when I was around his friends, I noticed that they would act differently towards me, or they would know things, but they wouldn't tell me, or they just call me the girlfriend, and I didn't have necessarily like my own person. And over time, slowly, he would leave things at my apartment, and I had lived on the same street as him. So that way he could watch me. But at the time, I didn't think that because I thought, oh my God, I'm like going to live with the love of my life in college. And, you know, we're going to live this life that he said was going to be so amazing. And so he would slowly leave things over, and then eventually he got a key. And so it always kept him to have a reason to come over. And then eventually he just came over with or without me saying that he could. But he really just painted this picture perfect thing. And then you realize that it's all just an image that they create, but that's not really reality. And so it can really twist the way you view things.
And you know, it's interesting because what you shared was a progression. It was slowly happening. You know, he stops by, then he's getting a key, then he's coming when I'm not there. So then now it's become his apartment too, you know. And so it was definitely a progression that I hope that people kind of heard her talk about. So if you're just joining us, say hey, let us know where you're tuning in from. We are talking to the authors of My Survivor Story. There are 5 authors. We miss you, Cara, by the way. And all of their stories are in here. And can I tell you how these survivors literally told you so much about their journey, and that can really empower you, that can help you, that can teach you, and so that can help you help someone else. So Chelsea, did you want to answer the question? You good with that?
So it would be very hard to really do anything without the mom's permission, but if you can talk to her, then you definitely want to reassure her, listen to her, actively listen to what she has to say, and be there for her, because that will help her gain confidence, let her know she's not dramatic, give her the freedom and empowerment to, if she hasn't left the situation, to leave it, or if she has, then to be able to heal and move forward. Because a lot of it, especially when you're that age and you're being told you're dramatic, you're going to shut down and you're not going to believe in yourself. So it's a lot of just that I am here, I'm listening, I believe you.
That was so good. That was so good, Chelsea. Like, I felt that was really, really good. Thank you for that. And you know, I can hear as a 15-year-old girl, as a 14, that's what she needs, you know. And thank you so much, Kim, for that question. I think it's really important. I'm glad you asked it, and I hope a lot of other people would too. Hey from Canada. Hey Lisa. Hey from New Hampshire. I'm so glad you guys are catching this. I'm gonna put the link. I'm trying to put it in, it's not working, but don't worry. we know how to, we will share it and we will let you know how you can grab the book. We want you to grab it. We want you to grab it for others. I want all counselors to have this book because it's really important. Kathy, I wanted to ask you, because one of the things that your abuser would do would like take things so that you couldn't move forward, like your bike one day or something was missing, or, you know, so that you couldn't progress and move forward. And it's like, I see, let me tell you, y'all just shaking your heads because y'all know what I'm talking about. So Kathy, tell us a little bit about that. And what are some signs that other survivors can look out for that just aren't normal?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the again, like some of it just goes back to keeping me unsettled all the time, like never quite sure I could like relax and be comfortable even at home. Because I was married to my abuser while I was in graduate school, and so it would be literally like he might just like walk in and like grab my computer or like grab the book I was reading or something like that. So I think part of it was like, yeah, it was just to make things more difficult for me, like just stress me out, and stuff like that. And then, you know, I kind of think too that he he just wanted to like, yeah, make things difficult. And like part of, you know, some of it was transportation stuff, right? Like I was trying to leave on my bike and he like stabbed the tire of the bike so I couldn't go away. So like that was some of it too, or just like hiding my keys or like taking my keys with him. So it, you know, some of it was, I think, to emotionally unsettle me, to make the things that like I had to do for work or school more difficult, because you know he would give it back eventually or he'd pass out or something. um and so, you know, it wasn't intended to be like, oh, I can never complete my school assignments. It was just to make it harder, to make me have to like kind of scramble at the last minute to get stuff done. And then, yeah, part of it was for control, to like, you know, hide or take my phone or wallet or keys, my ways to like get around and do anything in the world without him, pretty much.
You know, and as I listen to this, and this is what I do 24/7, and it doesn't cease to be hard to hear, because you're sharing things that just shouldn't be. Like you just shouldn't. And I think one of the hardest things about that too is that someone is listening to this that has or will experience this. And they're like, well, where are my keys? Or why can't, what happened to this? And they're trying to navigate life or trying to succeed or trying to care for the children, and they can't, because at every turn, their abuser is sabotaging everything that they did. And they're at their wits' end and they're feeling exhausted. So I want to touch on this just a little bit more before I want to talk about how you guys found your voice. How did you find your strength? And Victoria, I do want you to touch on the legal aspect a little bit as well, because I think that's really important. But I want to go to Chelsea real quick if you feel a little comfortable. Ooh, that scared me. Did y'all see it? That scared me. Okay, anyway, that was really weird. But I want to talk about, she said food. Abusers use food to control, as a means of control and manipulation. And without giving too much away, that was really weird. I don't know what that was, but whatever. Anyway, without giving too much of Chelsea's chapter away, that was something that your abuser did use to control you.
Yes.
And I want y'all to hear this so clearly. So let me just turn Chelsea's mic up. Okay. So Chelsea, go ahead. Because someone in the comments mentioned that as a youth advocate, she's heard many times that abusers use food as a means of control and manipulation. And that helped in Chelsea's story. So Chelsea, go ahead.
Well, it started out as like, well, maybe you shouldn't eat that. I know that like you want to lose weight. Like he started like trying to make me think that I wanted to lose weight, like it was my idea to go on a diet. And so like what I tend to talk about is how he didn't really eat too much at lunch in the beginning, and then towards the end, it was me not eating and me giving him my food instead. And it was a very much of like, well, I don't think you should eat that because you want to lose weight, remember? And just very much like it turned into where I started getting a lot of I turned and had anorexia because I was afraid to eat because he was controlling what I was eating.
Thank you for sharing that. And she goes into a lot of detail about that in the book. And I would challenge parents to pay attention to it. You know, there was a time when she says, I'm a vegan now, and her parents would just make vegan meals, not asking too many additional questions, not pry into a little bit, but why are you a vegan now? Like, and ask the questions that are really, really important. I think there's a high statistic, I don't want to quote it wrong, but at least 70-80% of parents have not had a conversation about healthy relationships and domestic violence with their children. So these things are really, really important. And so Chelsea, thank you for sharing that. It started with, she talked about she was sharing her food with him, and at the end he was sharing it with her. He literally had flipped the script. And so, oh my goodness. Okay, so it sounds so much like her client. And so their information is in this book. You have email addresses, websites, and things to connect with them. If anything resonates with you and you want additional support, please make sure you grab a copy of the book as well as reach out to them. Victoria, part of your story, and I want you all to hear a little bit about how these ladies found their voice, how they found their strength, how they found the bravery to escape, literally, Kathy, running down the street, right? And so, Victoria, the legal aspect for you has been absolute chaos, right? So tell us a little bit about some of your challenges that you've had navigating the justice system.
Oh gosh, should I really say this on a live?
Maybe the condensed version or the little version?
Let's just say I have no faith in our legal system whatsoever when it comes to anybody going through domestic violence. And I thought it might have just been California. And then I hear everybody's stories, and it really is like our entire legal system across the US. So I don't like them whatsoever. I've dealt with probably every cop and sheriff in San Diego, and that's a lot. And not one of them wants to help. I've probably heard everything out of the book from their mouths other than they want to help me. It's, we're not going to do anything until you're dead. How do we know that you're not the one who started the trouble? Just the amount of insanity that I've heard from them is just really acidine. And it doesn't get any better.
Yeah, and you go into that in detail in the book too. And I think it's important to recognize, because we know as a society, and we can say it live, that the legal system needs help. It's thwarted. And it is not necessarily geared towards survivors. It's like we have to prove our innocence, and we have to prove that it happened to us versus just being believed. And it becomes very frustrating to hear that survivors are not getting the justice that they so quickly and easily deserve, that will save their life. And so, Tasha, right? Let's start with you. When we talk about how did you navigate, all of your stories came to a peak. They came to a head where you said something's got to give. Okay, what was that for you, Tasha?
Oh gosh, see, for me, I think oh gosh. Okay, so my abuser and I talk about, the night that my abuser tried to kill me. And, this had happened multiple times, but I got to a point where, I didn't care if I lost everything. I was like, it's either me living and picking myself and choosing myself or not. And, I remember like sitting on my kitchen floor and just like crying and be like, okay, God, like like I need to get out of this. I am done. I am worthy. I don't care what anyone says, what anyone's gonna say. I know what happened to me. And during my journey, I had one friend because I had lost all my other friends. This person had isolated me. And it just took one person for me to know and to tell me that they believed me and that they were going to help me and support me for me to leave. So, like, it's just like literally one person. And, it took me a year to plan to leave. That's how like serious it was for me, because like financially this person ruined my stuff, my friends, my family, just complete thing. So, I just relied upon, telling my friends things here and there. And then I decided to go volunteer and do something for myself. And then that turned into a job so I could support myself. And then I finally broke down and like told my parents. But, I just got to the point where I was like, I'm done. Like I can't live on like this anymore. Like I know that I deserve better and that I can make it through this. And, it's either that or not living. And I just had that support. And then I just made small steps over time. And then I made a plan when I left that my friends and family would know where I was and that I'd be with them. And we just made a game plan. And, it took time, but I just knew that, like, I just had to put one foot in front of the other. And, like, I took it at a day at a time. And, I knew that if my story could help people someday, then, like, it would all be worth it.
Thank you for that, Tasha. I want to say a couple things about what you said. Number one, you needed one person, and that one person was there. So today, if you're listening, you could be that one person for someone else that just needs to be believed. Thanks for joining us. If you're joining us just now, please let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm speaking with the authors of My Survivor Story. It is on Amazon. Go get it ASAP. Get it for your guidance counselor, for your friends, for your cousins. It really is such a powerful book. And I don't say that in any small sense. Tasha, one thing you also talk about, and you talk about in the story too, so you started to tell people, and you surrounded yourself with people that believed you. Huge. That number one, they were there, but they didn't leave your side. They really supported you through that journey, and it really helped you get to the place where you got to today. And so you have to understand how important you are to someone's journey, really. And so it's really, really important. So I'm so excited. Tasha has her whole YouTube thing going on. She really is a huge advocate for you guys. So make sure you follow her. Make sure you tune in, because she's really encouraging and insightful. And her journey looks like so many other journeys. And I'm going to ask everybody one more question before we finish. And I want you just to think about what you would say to a survivor that's watching today before they get to the point of no return, before they get to the point where they're not here to share their story, before we have to do an honor of them. I want y'all to think about that, right? So Kathy, there was a moment when you, and I could like picture you when you write this in your story, you're like, what do I do? Do I run? Do I go back? What do I do? What was that point for you, Kathy?
Yeah. So I had kind of had like I had left a couple of times temporarily. And always had gone back for maybe because of finances or whatever. Sometimes emotional reasons. And so like there was one time I kind of was just I just couldn't handle it. It was literally like I mean it was my body like telling me to leave, go, get away. So like I left one night, I stayed at a friend's house, and then when I came back the next day, like I knew like it was really serious. Like my abuser was just like super upset, doing all kinds of things that were just making me like afraid for my life. And I had a puppy at the time, and like part of what kind of woke me up from just like being like, okay, I have to survive what's happening, and just kind of like being focused on surviving, was seeing my abuser abusing the puppy as well. And I was like, well, I can't let that happen, even though I couldn't say that for myself. But I was like, well, I can't let the puppy get abused. So like that was kind of part of it. And so I was in this situation where I could tell that things had escalated. It was really scary. And I was kind of like I spent hours at the house with him just doing things that were scaring me. But like I was like stuck in my mind. Like I didn't know what to do, but I knew that I didn't want to be there, but like I wasn't sure. And so when I finally decided to leave, my abuser like saw what was happening, and so I was hoping to take the puppy with me, but like as soon as he realized that I was trying to do that, he grabbed her, and he was like going to basically put her locked in a room where I couldn't get her. And so that's where what Lisa's talking about in my story, where I was like literally going, I was like, do I try to get the puppy or do I just leave? Like my body knew this was like a serious survival situation. So I was like trying to leave, but also like my emotional attachment to the puppy and like sort of her being part of the reason that I started to really see what was going on, and like that I needed to do something for this dog even before I could do something for myself. And so I was literally like just pacing, like I was pacing back and forth, like turning towards the door and then walking like the other way towards where my abuser had taken the puppy. And then she just was there. Like, I don't know what happened. I will never know what happened. But I just grabbed her and like ran. Like literally I didn't have a car. I just like ran out the door with the puppy. And that was, yeah, I mean, it was really intense. And it was sort of like, I think my maybe emotions were trying to catch up to what my body was telling me, was like, this is a super serious, urgent situation. You need to get out. But my emotions were kind of like a little bit stuck behind, and really feeling that attachment to my dog and not wanting to leave her.
Thank you, Kathy. That was really good. A lot of the comments in the comment section for you there. And someone also wrote it. It's so interesting how attached we can be. Like we can save like our puppy, but we don't have the same. We don't have the same. I should save myself, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever it is that you need to find to help save yourself, let it be that. And that puppy helped save your life that day. And so I'm really glad about it. And you guys, there's more detail to that. I literally can picture what you wrote right now as I'm thinking about it. But Victoria, what was your point where you said, this is it, enough is enough, I have to go?
I honestly feel like I didn't have one. The day that I ended up just leaving to try and go file a restraining order was actually the day that all my money was wiped out of my bank account. The the keys to my own house were changed, the locks were. And so I didn't know at that moment that that would be my last day in my own home until my money was taken. And then I was like, screw this. I'm breaking in. I'm getting a U-Haul and I'm moving all my stuff out. Cause like, how dare you take my hard earned money away from me? And so I didn't really have a plan. It was just, let's do this and let's do it.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it happens sometimes. Oftentimes, and as an advocate, we tell survivors, it'll be great if you could safety plan. But some moments are like, holy crap, I gotta go like right now. And that's the moment that saves your life. You can't be afraid to run out of the house barefoot and with a kid under here and a puppy under. It doesn't matter. Your life, like you talked about, Tasha, I lose everything to be able to have my life right now. So thank you for sharing that. So Chelsea, before I ask all of us our final questions, Chelsea, I want to ask you, did you have a breaking point? What did that look like for you? And I think one of the things about your story that really struck me was there were just so many moments where a hero could have come along and helped you or saved you or rescued you or saw you, and they didn't. So how did you decide that it was time for me to see me? I have to save myself, or what happened in that moment?
Well, it was towards the end of everything when the school got involved. They sat us down, they separated our classes. We were forced to be apart from each other. All the teachers were informed, like they couldn't be near each other. It was really crazy. So that kind of started that separation. And then on top of that, it kind of got to a point where I was very suicidal. And it got like to a point where I felt like I was going to die either by myself or by him. And that wasn't right. And I knew it in my heart and in my gut that that was not right. And so I started doing things so that way he couldn't come around. Like after the separation at school, he would try to come in through my dog door. So I would start locking the dog door and doing stuff like that just to keep him out. And then just working on myself because like I was in school, I was still under my parents. So like self-help books in the school library, stuff like that is really what I use to help come out of it.
Thank you, Chelsea. Tell us, what does life look like now for you? Like,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Tell us.
I am so happy. I'm engaged. I'm getting married in December.
Congratulations.
We have a beautiful family of a bunch of puppies. We have 2 dogs, an axolotl, 2 gerbils. Everything is amazing and something that I never would have saw myself having when I was going through all of it.
So what would you say to someone who is considering leaving or thinking about leaving? You know, what would you say to them, or is in the midst of the abuse? What would you say? Or even a teenager, you could speak to a teenager, you could say whatever you want. What would you say?
Just to trust yourself and to know that you are not being dramatic, no matter how many people tell you that, no matter how many people turn away from you or close doors on you, that you know that something's not right and that it's not right. And you need to do what's best for yourself.
Yes, what she said. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm telling y'all, when y'all grab this book, and you'll understand why we celebrate the way we do, because they've been through hell and they're sitting here with smiles on their faces. Victoria, what is life like now? How have you navigated life after abuse?
Oof, that's a loaded question because I feel like I'm still dealing with it. Even though I have left, it's been 2 years now, I'm still going through legal battles and abuse in different ways other than physical. But there's also a beautiful side to it. I've weeded out people that shouldn't be in my life, which was very difficult for me to do. And I gained a wonderful group of people and people I didn't ever think I could call family, but I call them family today. Um, it, it's just as hard as it is to still keep going through it after so long and after how many days of like leaving him that I'm still dealing with it, there's this like beautiful side to it of just like glory. And it's hard to like focus on the like the beautiful part of it versus the negative part of it, but I think that's what gets me through it every day is like understanding that there really is good in life and it's not all this like negative stuff. But it's a everyday battle.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I love your transparency. I'm still dealing with this legal battle because you are. And, you know, they'll learn more about that in the book. But so many survivors, even after they leave, they still have so much going on in like dealing with their abuser and the trauma, the chaos that they left behind. So, Victoria, what would you say to someone who, I mean, you spoke to someone who's getting ready to walk down the aisle and you said, trust your gut. So what would you say to someone else in a different area of their life? Maybe they're thinking about leaving. Maybe they can't figure out how to heal. What would you say to them?
Don't let fear come first. I think I let a lot of fear and what ifs actually like play my story of my whole life. And I finally realized that I need to stop putting the fear first and I need to just do it because you hear so many other women who have gone through it and they have this beautiful life afterwards. But when you're in the thick of it, if you put your fear first, you're never going to leave. So take your fear away from it. It is going to be scary. There are going to be tough times. You might be homeless. You might, go through tons of legal battles. You might lose everybody that you know and love because they believe him. If you allow that fear, you're never going to leave. So put the fear aside. Know that your struggles are still going to be there, but you're on the journey and on the right path of freedom.
Girl, that was so daggone good. Like I had to write it down. I was like, don't let fear come first. Don't. And I think you said it perfectly. If fear goes before, you'll never take that first step. Yeah. Right? And I mean, and you're talking about, and you're still in the thick of it, when it comes to all the legal battles, and you don't let fear come first, because if you did, you wouldn't be standing, you would not be here today if you let fear keep you. And so I'm super proud of you. Love it. Okay. That's like, hello. Like we need to keep that one and share that one. Don't let fear come first. It'll keep you stuck. All right. So, Kathy, you're up. Talk. Oh, I'm not me. Okay, Kathy, talk to me. What was the moment where you said, no, I asked you that already. I'm talking about, tell us about like life after. Like what does life after look like for you?
Yeah. Um, well, like I think for me, I experienced some abuse growing up too. So like leaving my abusive marriage was just this huge turning point in my life for me. Like it completely changed my entire life, like the way that I think about the world and the way that I think about myself. And so like learning maybe really for the first time in my whole life of like who I was instead of just trying to act the way that people expect me to or that I should act or like I don't know, I feel like I was kind of on autopilot without even being given a choice. Like I just was doing that and always kind of thinking about what other people, expected of me or whatever. And so it just completely like shifted me out of that. And to think more about what do I actually like? I think I dated myself for like 2 or 3 years after I left my abuser because it was like I didn't know like really who I was or like what I liked. Like, what are my hobbies? My life was like, I don't know, surviving abuse. So like I had to like be like, okay, well, I've got hours of the day to fill now. Um, what do I do? And so, like, just being able to get to know myself more and, maybe feel like I don't feel self-conscious like I did, as a teenager or something. I'm like, whatever. I'm a nerd. This is what I like. This is what I like to do. Like it doesn't matter. I don't care what anyone thinks. And so like being able to have that experience, change the way that like I live and think about the world. And, also I think realizing that like other people care like about me and want to help me in ways that maybe like I ask for instead of like like there are people in my life who will help me but like it comes with strings or conditions or something like that, but just finding that there are people who support me like however I want to be, however I'm showing up in the world. And that's amazing.
I love that. I love that. And it's so authentically true. I connected you. I picked you next because Victoria said something similar about cutting people out of her life, choosing who to have in your life. And you talk about how you've made those choices, even with people that are really close to you. So I love that you're like, however I choose to show up, people love me just like this. I really think you said a mouthful, and I really hope people would replay that and kind of listen to it. You're taking ownership of what you like and what you don't like, who you are and who you're not. And allowing people who love that to come and people who don't, okay. And then talking about how you were on autopilot. I just love that. So thank you so much. So Kathy, what would you say to someone who is in the part of their life where they're trying to navigate maybe life after and figuring out who they are? They just maybe feel so confused or so lost. What would you say?
Yeah. I think the main part is like just not being so worried about like what other people think or care about. And like for me, I don't know, it's really been helpful to just if I do something silly or think about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Like I'm just kind of like embracing an inner child like that of like it doesn't matter if there's no other reason for this than it makes me laugh. Like I'm not hurting anyone, so I can do that. So that's what I would tell people is to be maybe a little less self-conscious and like enjoy getting to know yourself and have fun with it.
That is so good. I love it. Oftentimes in abusive relationship, we get so lost in them and who they want us to be that we forget who are we. And so I love how you just like love, enjoying yourself, whether it's being silly or whether I think you even talk about how like you name something like us, and you're like, that sounds, I love it because I said it was good. So it's good. Like just embracing who you are. And I just love it. So last but of course not least, Miss Tasha Ray, let's talk a little bit about what your life looks like after. And of course, before I forget, because for some reason it's not flowing off my tongue, what would you tell someone who was you, who was looking to try to navigate life after or thinking of escaping? What would you tell them? So 2 questions.
Okay. So first, I just want to say I relate to you all so much, especially what Kathy and Victoria said, because I felt like a shell of a human. You know, I had no idea what I liked or what I wanted to do because everything was through him, like every single thing in my life. And so when I left, it was scary and I felt like a newborn because I was like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Like, where do I want to be? And I never thought about those before. And I just love what Victoria said about, you know, the living in fear. And like, that's why I have a tattoo that says faith over fear. And that's what my chapter is because, you know, I lived in immense fear and I think we all did for so long. And it's like taking the leap into the unknown, even though it seems scary, is so much like better for you, you know? And, you know, my life now is, of course, I still have my moments. You know, I struggle with PTSD. I have moments that trigger me and you wouldn't think that they do. And, you know, I have like, I would struggle with nightmares or a hard time trusting myself. But, you know, you move through those moments of pain and they get smaller and smaller as time goes on. And, you know, I would say I just started trying new things and I moved to a new place and I just like the feeling of freedom because people got to know me for me and not through him. And I felt like people got to see me for me and I got to, you know, explore who I am. And I would say you know, at the time I had no friends and now I have beautiful, amazing soul friends who, you know, it's healthy and they love you and they support you. And you know, I would have dreamed of this and I never would have thought I could have even made it out. But I'm so glad that, like, you know, you don't give up and you move through those fearful moments. But yeah, it's a lot better now. Like, I feel so grateful and so blessed. And of course, I still have my moments because we're human. Um, and then what I would say to somebody is first, I would say that I believe you and that you're not crazy and you're valuable and you're worthy. And, you know, I experienced victim blaming. I experienced friends and family of my abuser, you know, blaming me or not believing me and losing friends. But I promise that there's people out there that will support you and will believe you. And, you know, just like us here today, we all support each other and believe each other. And just always trust that intuition and yeah, to just pick the faith in the unknown over the fear. That's what I would say.
That's so good. Y'all, my heart is so full. Okay. And so if y'all heart's not full, I don't know what y'all been watching for the past hour and a half. But I want to just celebrate y'all, Victoria, Chelsea, Tasha, Kathy, and Kara. We miss you. She's also an author in the book. Just know that I just want to go, yeah. You know that whole Oprah thing where she's like, yeah. That's how I feel. I sit here with just so proud of you guys because I know, let me grab it and then you'll understand a little bit more in detail what I mean. I'm going to put the link here after. We'll share it, link it on our page. I really want y'all to grab this book and understand the strength that it took these survivors. And they're sitting here telling you they've been through hell. They know what it looks like. So they're giving you all the warning signs. They're giving you all the things to look out for. They're giving you all the challenges they still have, but they're giving you life after too. They're letting you know that you can survive this, that there is love and life outside of the abuse. There's still going to be challenges, but you can be engaged. You can have a life. You can have a great job. You can navigate life on your own terms. You can live and breathe, and people are going to love you. They lie. There are people out there that are waiting to be a part of your inner circle. So if anybody else has anything they want to share, thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to put the link for the book. Please make sure you go grab it. It's only $20. And we need to make sure that this gets in the hands of those who need it, from guidance counselors to the legal team, to people, to colleges, to people who are navigating life. You guys, it's really important because they're giving you the signs of what to look out for, so you do not have to go through this yourself. All right. If you're a parent and you're watching, please talk to your sons. Please talk to your daughters. Please let them know they didn't hit them because they like them. Please let them know that they can navigate this life without a partner. Anyway, I'm rambling. Y'all have anything else? Y'all could jump in. Victoria, you unmuted. You want to say something?
I mean, honestly, the only thing really I have left to say is thank you so much, Lisa, because if you didn't reach out to me, or I'm just going to speak for myself, things would have been so different. Being so far away and on the opposite side of the US, if I didn't reach out to you guys and you guys didn't reach back out to me, life would have been so different, so different. So
Oh my
just
goodness.
thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. She came to our healing retreat in Tennessee, all the way from California, and it's in the book too. Like so many firsts, she took a bold move. Never done these things by herself, and that's where Kathy went to our healing retreat. So they met there. But you are so welcome. We're just so thankful to have been on this journey with you all. I'm so proud of each and every one of your authors. You guys are brave and strong, and I guarantee, without a doubt, know that tonight you save lives. Know that tonight you save more than one. Know that tonight you help someone begin on their healing journey. So it wasn't easy for you. I know that when they write their chapter, I'm like, this is gonna be tears. It's gonna get ugly. You're gonna want to quit. But the end result is someone else is not going to have to go through what you went through, or someone's life is going to be saved as a result. So I honor you guys today. I celebrate you. I thank you for your bravery and sharing your story. And I want you to know how many lives you're going to save and change. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We will see y'all later. Ladies, y'all don't go anywhere. We're going to say bye to the live audience. Okay. All right. We'll see y'all later. Y'all make sure that you share this with somebody who needs to see it. All right. And in the book also, they have their websites. I just happened to come across Victoria. So they have their websites and all the information so you could learn more about them and follow them and connect with them and connect. And please, if you guys need speakers for anything, or you need someone to come out and do a class or do a workshop or do a Zoom or a live or anything for any of your organizations, please tap into these authors. They are prepared and ready to help you. Okay. All right. Oh, somebody asked, what's the first step to take in order to heal? Does anybody want to tackle it? First step.
Go to a retreat with Stand Up Survivor.
Absolutely. But you know what, but Victoria, for you to have come to that retreat, you had to acknowledge your situation and say, you know what, I think I need help. And so I think that absolutely intentional healing has to take place. She said, I can't afford to go to this retreat. How do I get there? And she talks about in the book what she had to do to get there, to be able to begin her healing. So that was really, really good. So yeah, absolutely. Come to a healing retreat with us. We love y'all. First step. What else? Anybody else have a first step? Yes. Tasha, I see you unmuting.
Yeah, I would say, for me, the first step was just accepting myself and accepting where I was and being compassionate towards yourself and creating that to be kind and give yourself those hard moments. But I would just say fully accept yourself, and that it's okay where you are, what you're going through, and, even though it can feel like that, but yeah, just having that grace and compassion, because we all have hard moments. That's what I would say.
That's really good. Thank you for that. Have compassion. You're not expected to know this. There's no blueprint. There's nothing to tell you what to do if you're abused by your partner. Like, whoa, you didn't expect this. So, any other questions? Anybody have any other questions for any of us? I forgot. I didn't even ask if they have questions. I apologize. For people in different countries, yes. So we do have our countries already preset for 2023, but we'd love to connect with you and come to Australia. So please send us over an email and we can look at making that happen. Yes. So we do travel for sure. Anybody else have any other questions for anybody? The next retreat is actually in 2 weeks in Maryland. But then that's our last one for 2022. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? All right, so we will let you go. And if you guys, reach out to us, we may do like a private group maybe in one of our private groups, just a chat. So you guys want to do a Q&A with them and they can help you navigate a little bit further. We can kind of facilitate that. Okay. All right. So we'll see you later. You ladies stay on and we'll see y'all later. Okay. Bye guys.